Tanse, I'm Creeson Agecoutay. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. For a family in Moose Factory Cree Nation in Northern Ontario, it has now been 286 days of still not finding who is responsible for the death of their loved one. Last year, on November 7th at around 3 a.m. in the morning on Jaban Street in Moose Factory, police were notified about 21-year-old Loni Chum, who was found with critical injuries. She was taken to hospital by ambulance where she later died. The Ontario Provincial Police say Chum was struck by a pickup truck on the same night. Now the Ontario government is offering a $50,000 reward this week for information about Chum's death that can lead to an arrest and conviction. Previously, the OPP was asking for the public's help to identify 2 pickup trucks that were leaving the area that night, but police say both trucks have been identified and the investigation continues. On August 11th, an awareness walk was held for Loni where everyone wore purple in her memory. Anyone with information on this investigation are asked to call RCMP, the OPP, or Crime Stoppers.
I do miss her. I miss her every day. I miss her smile. I miss her laugh. I miss her cooking. But we gotta remember, gotta keep moving forward. I said her walk's not done. Her voice is still speaking through each one of us.
Earlier this month, 5 inmates at Pine Grove Correctional Centre in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan started a hunger strike over prison conditions. The Saskatchewan government claims all inmates are taking their trays, but a concerned mother says that's not true. Video journalist Rachel May has more.
The strike began on August 2nd, and one of the key concerns those on the hunger strike were hoping to see addressed was water quality. Allegedly, the water in Pine Grove Correctional Centre is making women in the facility sick when they consume it. We contacted the Ministry of Sask Builds and Procurement, who stated they're unaware of any water quality issues at Pine Grove, but are taking the concerns seriously. The ministry is actioning supplementary water testing as a precautionary measure to confirm the water quality. Government's priority is ensuring the safety and well-being of staff and inmates. The Ministry of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety said the hunger strike or tray refusal began to wind down just 2 days into the strike. The ministry can confirm that on August 2nd, 2024, 5 inmates at PGCC refused their lunch and supper trays. For the following 2 days, all inmates accepted their trays. However, on August 5th, 1 inmate again refused their lunch and supper trays. As of August 6th, all inmates have been accepting their trays. CPPS also said that when an inmate initiates a tray refusal, they also share their concerns or reasons for doing so to staff. A tray refusal ends when an inmate accepts their tray or states they are no longer refusing it. But for Faith Eagle, mother of one of the women, reports that her daughter is still not eating and is only consuming coffee with milk and sugar.
Pine Grove won't dictate hunger strikes anymore. It's not how they want it or how they see it or how they think it's suitable for themselves. The girls are standing up for themselves, taking back their rights and not allowing Pine Grove to dictate them.
Eagle says the 5 girls still fasting are hoping to spur change for all inmates in correctional facilities.
Us as Indigenous people, we're speaking up for all of you, and even for the men in the correctional systems. We hear you, we see you, we know what's going on. Nobody's forgotten. There's no voices that won't be not heard. We'll make sure that you're heard.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
As part of a 10-year anniversary, there was an important funding announcement was made for a Winnipeg North End drop-in center that's named in honor of Tina Fontaine's legacy. With more, here's TR Wheatley.
Tina, in many respects, is representative of all MMIWG to us.
On the eve of when Tina Fontaine's remains were pulled from the Red River, Nahanni Fontaine, Manitoba's Minister of Families and Gender Equity, announced $986,000 in funding for Tina's Safe Haven, a 24-hour drop-in center for at-risk youth.
It's not enough anymore for folks to say, like, yes, we believe or support MMIWG2S without putting your money where your mouth is.
It's a joint effort between the federal and provincial governments that aims to end gender-based violence. Shanley Scott is the executive director of Nadinawa Maganug Andawad, the organization that runs Tina's Safe Haven. Scott says the funds will go toward holistic programming.
As Indigenous people is leading from an Indigenous perspective, it means that we can expand those very services and supports, including cultural workers, expanding the mental wellness supports that are being provided, and of course the biggest excitement is to expand the primary healthcare services that are available to our young people.
Amber LaPlante, a member of Little Saskatchewan, grew up in the city's north end. Like many others here, LaPlante reflects on losing Tina.
This little girl, I think, shook a nation when we all heard about the news.
LaPlante is also thinking of the others since Tina that were also found in the nearby Red River, including Jana Williams in the spring of 2021.
I grew up with her. We're part of the same family, not like blood related, but the same hood family that I would consider my relatives. And to find out that what had happened to her, and again in the Red River, near that water, it was devastating, and to also learn that she was expecting at the same time.
As a survivor of these streets herself, she knows the additional supports to help youth at risk can make a difference. Something echoed by many here as they hope for a day where the brutal killings of Indigenous women and girls are no more.
When one is taken, it affects each and every one that walks in this creation among our relatives.
Losses such as Tina's, where the emotions that many went through on the day she was found are still felt a decade later. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A coroner's inquest into the death of an Indigenous woman from the Kingfisher Lake First Nation in Northern Ontario has concluded. 31-year-old Ruth Ann Queequish died on April 1st, 2017 from ketoacidosis, a diabetes complication. This happened after repeated visits to the local nursing station. The inquiry produced a total of 42 recommendations, such as developing a cohesive approach to the management of lab test results, facilitating virtual medicine, and prioritizing the hiring of nurses with experience working in remote First Nation communities. An emotional Jordan Queequish, the brother of the deceased, told the inquiry as it closed that all people should have access to good health care. A documentary about an investigation into a residential school is personal for director Julian Brave Noisecat. APTN's Angel Moore has this report and a warning. Some details in this story may be disturbing.
I felt dirty as Indian all my life in residential school.
Look at that. It's all names.
This is a scene from the documentary called Sugarcane, produced by Julian Brave Noisecat of the Secwepemc Nation in British Columbia. The feature documentary is an investigation into the horrors inflicted on the children of the St. Joseph's Mission Residential School, including Noisecat's family and notably his father's survival.
And so I think that this documentary was really about figuring out what the story was for him, myself, and my family. And also it's about what happens when, we finally break these silences that our families have kept in order to survive across so many decades.
Operated from 1886 to 1981 by the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate near Williams Lake First Nation, also referred to as Sugarcane. Testimonies from survivors include babies fathered by priests burned in the incinerator. Noisecat discovered his father was born at the mission.
And my own father actually was the only known survivor of that pattern of infanticide at St. Joseph's Mission. It's such a heavy reality to grapple with, but at the same time, I know that he's not the only one.
Co-producer Emily Cassie has worked with Noisecat over the years and was inspired to document the investigation at St. Joseph's Mission.
So I'm an investigative journalist and filmmaker, and I've covered human rights abuses and conflicts all over the world. But I'm also Canadian, and I had never turned my lens on my own country. So when the news of potential unmarked graves broke in May of 2021, I felt gut pulled to the story. And the first thing I did was text Julian.
Sugarcane portrays a community's survival and healing, breaking intergenerational trauma.
You know, I just hope that this documentary helps encourage other Native people and descendants of survivors to, if they have the opportunity still to talk to those people, to have those kinds of conversations, you know, because this history, this essential part of our story, this part of our story that's about how we survived a genocide, is going to slip from living memory very soon.
Sugarcane is playing in theaters across the country. The National Residential School Crisis Line is 1-866-925-4419. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Agecoutay, also known as Halifax.
Thank you, Angel. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Community members in Manitoba came out to remember Tina Fontaine on Saturday. It was the 10th anniversary of when the 15-year-old's body was discovered in the Red River in Winnipeg. Sav Jones was there and brings us this quick look.
I'm in Saugeen, Anishinaabe Nation, where a memorial walk has just concluded in honor of Tina Fontaine. It's the 10th anniversary of when Fontaine's body was pulled from the Red River near downtown Winnipeg. Community members are still honoring the life and legacy that Tina has left behind. The 15-year-old First Nations girl was in the care of Child and Family Services at the time of her murder, and advocates are still calling for change within the Child and Family Services system.
I think it remains the same, although, you know, there is hope with the new child welfare legislation that's federal child welfare. I think, you know, it gives the communities a say of where their children go, which is a good thing, right? They don't end up on the streets like the way Tina was exploited.
We'll have more on this memorial walk and the impact that her murder has left on her family later tonight. Sav Jones, APTN National News, Saugeen, Anishinaabe Nation.
Welcome back. Winnipeg artist J.D. Hawk is on a mission to immortalize Métis history through his paintings. A selection of his work is on display at the oldest home in Winnipeg. Here's APTN's intern Kieran Aho with more.
Here at the Seven Oaks House Museum in Winnipeg, prominent Métis artist J.D. Hawk has opened up his new exhibit, titled Hiding in Plain Sight. It features a selection of Hawk's portraits.
I wanted anybody that I respected and knew who was Métis to tell their story through my paintings. So you'll go through the museum and you'll see some of these portraits. That's exactly what it is. It's a visual record of history of a Métis person, where they came from and where their family came from. And to me, that was really important to do.
For the summer, Hawk has lent the museum 6 of his original oil paintings. The chosen works document his heritage and the resilience of the Métis people.
It lets people outside the Métis homeland know who we are, where we come from, not just the hardships, but also that we stuck together as a family and community.
With commissions from organizations such as the Manitoba Métis Federation and the Royal Canadian Mint, Hawk has come a long way, but it hasn't always been easy for Hawk, as for much of his life, he has experienced homelessness.
I was going through a depression, and I didn't know what depression was. I had no idea what it was.
For most of his life, Hawk has practiced art as a hobby, but his creative pursuits were interrupted by periods of financial instability.
There was times where I ended up losing everything or partial stuff, and so it set me back. I'd move, I'd lose stuff, be set back, and then eventually I lost all my art stuff, And I never wanted to paint again because that was the one thing that was truly me. I didn't want to do it again. I was just so heartbroken of always losing my stuff.
But in his time of need, he found inspiration in the work of another. While traveling through Nova Scotia, Hawk came across the work of Maud Lewis, whose paintings depicted subjects of joy despite her difficult life.
And so that struck me is that, I have this gift to paint people, portraits, things that I see, very visual, that it'd be selfish of me just to quit. That when I return back to Winnipeg, I should start up again. And so that's what happened. I started back up again because of that inspiration. And from there, it just skyrocketed.
Since moving back to Winnipeg, Hawk has found purpose through his paintings, honoring the Métis community.
It feels so good to know that this is who I am, and this is the community that I belong to. They accept me as part of their community. They've shown nothing but kindness and love towards me. And that's probably why I do paint what I paint. Like, I want to give back somehow.
He tells us about one of his paintings, which he found symbolizes his journey.
There's this one where I have a picture of a horse, and he's kind of looking back. And I have him purposely looking back because it tells my story, where I went through hardships, I went through the homelessness. And so this horse represents that you can look back to see how far you've come. And that is a happy moment, to look back, wow, did I come from far away and now I'm here. I've gotten to a better place, and I'm so happy for that.
J.D. Hawk's Hiding in Plain Sight exhibit is open at the Seven Oaks House Museum until the 31st of August. Kieran Aho, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great story, Kieran. Thank you. The world-renowned fashion icon Barbie was the subject of a hit movie last year. Now 5 female-led Canadian companies have collaborated to design 8 different fashion looks and over 100 products to celebrate Barbie's 65th anniversary. Among the designers is the Indigenous owner of the cosmetics brand Cheekbone Beauty. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
It took a lot of prep to get there, but this is some of the behind the scenes this week in Toronto at a Barbie event. It was a big deal for Jen Harper of Cheekbone Beauty.
On Wednesday night when we're at the event and you've seen it, it's just all now live and it has come to life. It was really a magical experience because of all the hard work that you're in the background. And then when you see it laid out in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, this was all worth it. And it's so beautiful. Yeah, so proud to be a part of this.
Harper founded Cheekbone Beauty 9 years ago as a way to include Indigenous people and to feel represented in the beauty industry. For this new endeavor called Barbie Through the Decades, out of the 5 female-led companies, Harper's focus was to create Barbie's makeup over the years. So she created a new limited edition Barbie, Power Pink Pencils Trio.
It's 5 Canadian women-led brands that came together and put together a collection about each decade. So Cheekbone Beauty was the lead makeup brand, obviously, for every decade. And starting in 1959, when original Barbie was born, right through to the 90s. And so it's been incredible to be a part of that and see all of these brands that are led by women in Canada.
She says it meant a lot to be there personally as well.
Yes. So as a little Ojibwe girl, my brown skin and my dark hair, I obviously growing up in the 80s and did not see, I think, a lot of Barbies that look like me for sure, but was obsessed with all the Barbies that existed.
Harper says she's reached out to Mattel about creating an Indigenous Barbie that's sold every day and not some special edition.
If you look back, there's a lot of Native American Barbies that popped up, but I was like, we need one that just exists, like that's there for our community to be able to see themselves all the time. And so they've entertained those conversations for years. And then when this project came about, it feels very special. And then I even brought Ashley Collingbull as my +1 to the dinner on Wednesday because she is, to me, like the epitome of what an Indigenous Barbie should look like.
Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Thank you, Annette. We have more stories when we're back in about 3 minutes. Stick around. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 20, Charlottetown 22. Cartwright 21, Nujuak 15. Val-d'Or 10, Saguenay 17. Toronto 15, Ottawa 17. Thunder Bay 19, Timmins 24. Sunny and God's Lake at 17, Puckatawagan 20. 22 in Gimli, Prince Harbour 20. Regina 20, Saskatoon 20 as well. Buffalo Narrows 20, Uranium City 15. 25 in Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie 20. 29 in Calgary, Edmonton 28. Bella Coola 19, Kamloops 28. Fort Nelson 26, Prince Rupert 18. Beaver Creek 20, Mayo 21. Yellowknife 21 as well, Norman Wells 29. Sachs Harbor 2, Colville Lake 27. Chesterfield 16, Baker Lake 21. And Arctic Bay 14 and Clyde River 10. And Edmonton First is wrapping up in the River Valley. It's helping Indigenous people connect with their roots. The camp invited people of all skill levels to learn about moose hide tanning, a traditional skill integral to the culture. CTV's Nicole Weisberg has more.
I'm trying to pull it off.
Days of work soaking the hide, removing the flesh, meat, and fur has led Jolene Hardesty here, still a ways from finishing her project.
Everything you do with the moose, say you're mindful, you're honoring that moose and that spirit that gave its life so that your family can have meat and clothing.
Hardesty learned hide tanning in the Northwest Territories, where she spent much of her childhood living on the land with her parents. Even with years of experience, it's a challenge.
Each moose will teach you a different lesson.
She is one of 30 who've spent the last 6 days camped in the Edmonton River Valley at Kinsman Park. This event, the first in our city.
This is based in resurgence, right? Reciprocity, kinship, Wakoto and Miowachituan, building good relations amongst each other, not only us, but with the land, with our four-legged relatives, our four-legged beings.
Cree artist Jessica Sanderson-Berry helped put this camp together. She missed out on learning hide tanning from her own family and had to learn from another later in life.
Just enacting that blood memory while they're holding their tools, scraping the hide, is really like healing for them in a way, but also like we want to ensure that they take this knowledge and they continue to transmit that knowledge to their own family, their own communities.
For first-timers, it's a lesson in patience and understanding.
To get the opportunity to live like how we're supposed to is really sacred and incredible to experience.
Holding this in the city, organizers hope to normalize these camps and give greater insight into a traditional craft. Nicole Weisberg, CTV News, Edmonton.
And that's your midday newscast for this Monday, August 19th. We'll be back again for your evening newscast with more stories. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching.